Hi, Linda Sessions here, and welcome to week 4 of personal finance. So how are you doing with tracking your personal spending? I know it's not an easy thing to get involved with, not easy to track. I know I've been just using the notes in my phone to help me track it, and sometimes it's not easy. And this time I'm trying to get my husband to track his as well. If you've got more than one person in the house, it's kind of nice to know what they're spending the money on. But yeah, more on that later. I don't know if I'm going to get that to happen this semester either. But hey, just keep working, just keep trying. It's always a good idea to know where your money is going. So hopefully you've started tracking your spending, and yeah, it's the only way you're going to be able to do the big project at the end of the class. So anyway, let's look and see what's coming up here in week 4 in personal finance. So here's the class, and coming down here. In week 3, you looked a little bit about educational financing and consumer purchasing, and looking at house purchasing. So hopefully you got all those done. Now remember, these are all due the 14th. You're on Monday. Make sure you get those turned in. And the discussion boards. Now the readings, yes, those are 0 points, but that's the only way I could get the links in for you. And there's videos. There are questions with the videos, but you don't have to complete the questions, but it will help you understand the content as well. And then you also have the discussion boards that you must do, as well as that Module 3 quiz. They're all due by the 14th. Please, I hope you get the discussion board entered in early in the week so that your classmates have a chance to read your post and do a little bit of discussion. That's the idea behind the discussion board, guys. So I'd like to see a little more discussion than what I've been seeing, but so far it's been fun. Sorry, my cat's giving me hex. It's been fun reading your responses. I don't always reply to them, but I always read them. And so it's been fun reading what you guys have to say. Here in Module 4, we're going to talk about property and motor vehicle insurance, which is always fun in Kansas, one of the few states where you have to pay insurance on your vehicle every single year, and as well as health, disability, and life insurance. So here you've got your overview of the assignments. Again, you've got your reading assignments. These are links to your textbook. You got links to videos. Give you a lot of information on those chapters. And then you've got your discussion boards as well as a Module 4 quiz. So let's click on this first one, property and motor vehicle insurance. I know the insurance in Kansas for property is what's kept me from buying a boat. I didn't want to pay property tax on and insurance on a vehicle I was only going to be able to use 3 months out of the year. So never owned one. But I have several friends who they have a motorhome and a boat, and every year they pay property tax, they pay insurance on it, and plus paying storage on it, because where they've purchased their house, they can't store those items at their house. So they have to pay a storage fee. Lots of things to think about. You know, having a boat's a lot of fun, but there are a lot of hidden costs that go into owning a boat. So property and motor vehicle insurance. Do you have to have motor vehicle insurance in Kansas? Yes, you do. You have to at least have the basic insurance. I have full coverage on mine just because actually I have a loan on one of mine still, so you have to have full coverage insurance if you have a loan on a vehicle. But what that does is it protects you if you're in an accident. That's why we have motor vehicle insurance. Depending upon how old your car is, or how new your car is, the type, the make, the model of your car, all of those factor into the cost of your insurance. Now, there are some insurance companies right now that will not insure a Kia because they are like the #1 stolen cars, and so they just won't insure them. You're going to pay more insurance for a sports car than you will for, say, a family sedan, and you will pay higher insurance if you have a teenage boy that's driving than you will if you have a teenage girl that's driving. And that's because statistics have shown that boys tend to get in more wrecks and drive a little more recklessly than girls. All of those things factor into the cost of your motor vehicle insurance. Now, property insurance. Do you have to have property insurance? If you have a home and you have a loan on the home, then you're going to have property insurance. Now, some people don't have renter's insurance, but I would say if you're renting somewhere, it's not a bad idea. My mom, when she lived with me, she actually had renter's insurance on her possessions. And even though I had homeowner's insurance, so everything she had was covered, she wanted to make sure that her items were covered if something were to happen to the house. So she actually had renter's insurance on her items when she was living with me. So you've got those different types of insurance. So this whole chapter is on looking at insurance. Why have it? Well, what if something happens to your house? I know on my house, I actually even have earthquake insurance. Didn't cost very much, but if your house is completely damaged in an earthquake, if you don't have earthquake insurance, you don't get anything. Now, it does have to be 100% loss for me to get anything, but if we were to have an earthquake and I were to lose my house, I still have to pay for my house. Now, fires. If your house burns down and you don't have insurance, you still have to pay for the house, even though it's not there anymore. You've already taken the loan out for the house. That's what insurance is there for. It protects you in case you have something happen. So there's different types of insurance. Your insurance agent can go over the different insurance policies, the different types of insurance, whether you want to just insure your house or property inside your house. If you've got a lot of antiques, maybe you want to get what's called a rider, which is an additional policy over and above your basic insurance policy that covers your antiques, maybe your jewelry, or if you have a lot of musical instruments in your house. So those are different things that you would want to contact your insurance agent about and sit down with them. And it's always a good idea to get with them. We get with ours about every 2 years. We don't have a whole lot of antiques or musical instruments, but we review our insurance about every 2 years and update it if we need to, just to make sure that we've got the most current policy and the best insurance on our house that we need. So here is, in this chapter, talks about insurancing your stuff, property liability insurance, different types of insurance that's available to you, and also a little bit more about auto insurance. So lots of stuff you need to think about if you want to own a car or live somewhere. Now the next chapter, that's chapter 10. In chapter 11, I'll get down to it. Chapter 11 is about health, disability, and long-term care insurance. the government requires you to have some type of a health insurance, even if it's what I refer to as a catastrophic policy. If you were to break your leg and go into the hospital and need surgery, that's going to cost you a heck of a lot of money. And if you don't have insurance, you're going to be paying on that for a very, very long time. And in some cases, even if you have insurance. If you get injured in a car accident, then your auto insurance picks up that healthcare bill. So even if you slam your finger in a car door, your health coverage might not cover it. You might have to go to your auto insurance to pay for that because it happened with your car. Now, sometimes your healthcare insurance might become like what they refer to as a secondary coverage, but your auto insurance becomes the primary coverage. I know, weird, right? But health insurance is something that you need to think about. And for those of you who are in high school, a lot of you might only be thinking about how much am I making each month? How much am I making per hour? You're not thinking about what would it cost if I was getting health care. A lot of us have our health care and our disability through our employers. And that's because we can get it at a group rate, because we get a group policy. And our group policy is cheaper than if we get an individual policy, because there's more people paying into it than the individual. And this was really, I was talking with somebody who's a teacher in Derby. Derby health insurance is really expensive, and a lot more expensive if you teach in Derby. It's a lot more expensive than if you teach in Wichita. And the reason is there are a lot more teachers in Wichita in 259 than there are in 260. So 259 can get a better deal on their insurance. They can spread it out over more employees. They get a better deal. So those are called benefits. Usually it's cheaper if you just insure yourself. But if you have a family, then you might need to get a family plan, and those are usually more expensive. But you want to have yourself covered as well as your spouse and your kids. So it's referred to as a family plan. So when you're out there looking for a job, you want to look not only at the pay, what are you going to be making, but you want to look at the benefits. I have a son that works for the railroad. His health care is fantastic. Fantastic. That's something he has to keep in mind when he is looking at a job, looking at maybe leaving and going somewhere else. He's not going to get a better deal on that insurance than what he gets on working for the railroad, because they have so many people that work for the railroad, because it's a nationwide thing. So benefits, healthcare, disability. So it talks about why is that getting more expensive? Well, healthcare is expensive. It costs a lot for the machines. It costs a lot for the doctors. Doctors have to pay for insurance on themselves. Okay. So there are health insurance, there's disability income if you get hurt on the job and you have to stay home. It's what's disability income insurance is. They will actually pay you while you're recovering at home, and you pay a premium, which means you pay something each month, so that if you do get hurt, then you get some money coming in while you're recovering from that injury. And that's disability income insurance. So those are some things you really need to think about. You've seen those commercials on TV for Aflac. That's what they're talking about. What happens if you get injured? You need to have something you need to think about. Talks about the limitations, different types of healthcare coverage, private sources of healthcare. There are plans you can get through the government, different options. There are government healthcare programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and also recognizing the need for disability income insurance. You never know what happens if you get hurt on the job in your home and you have no income coming in. What's going to happen to your house, your groceries? What are you going to do? So that's what all Chapter 11 is about. And long-term care insurance. This is insurance for if you need to go into a rehabilitation home. That's what long-term care insurance is talking about. So that's Chapter 11. So if we look at Chapter 12, we're talking about life insurance. Now, I actually worked for a life insurance. I actually worked for a health insurance company for a while, but I worked for a life insurance. Life insurance it's not for you, okay, because life insurance only pays when you die. Life insurance is for your family. It's for your loved ones. So maybe they don't have as many burdens in their life after you go. And if you're the primary breadwinner in your family, what's going to happen if something happens to you? Are they going to lose the home? Can they afford to stay there? Can they afford living in the life they're accustomed to if something were to happen to you? That's what life insurance takes care of. And there are different life insurance policies out there. There's whole life, which is a policy that you pay on, and it is good until you die. I have a whole life policy on myself that I have had for probably 40 years now. The premium is really low because I've had it for so long. If I was to go out and get a whole life policy right now, it would be very expensive because, face it, I have fewer birthdays in front of me than I have behind me. So I have less money to go into it. All right. There's also what is called term life insurance, and term life insurance is for a period of time. So maybe I want to get insurance that's only going to be for like 5 years. That's what I want it for. And it's usually a little bit cheaper than whole life insurance. I'm paying into this policy that's going to go away. If you work somewhere, that's basically a term life insurance, because usually when you work somewhere, if you quit there or you get fired or you retire, that policy is going to go away. Even though you've been paying into it for all those years, that policy is going to go away. And the idea behind term insurance is as you age and get older, that you're putting money somewhere else so that they really don't need that life insurance policy. So if you're a good financial planner, you're not depending on that life insurance for your loved ones. You have to look at what you need. A lot of people fall into the category where they have so much life insurance and they're paying for so much life insurance they can't live life today. And that's when the family's going, I can't wait till they die because, boy, am I going to get a truckload of money because they have so much life insurance. Well, you don't need to do that, possibly. Maybe that's what you want, but I don't. If I die, my life insurance is not as much as my husband's because my husband was the primary breadwinner. But if my husband was to die, I wouldn't lose my house. If I was to die, he wouldn't lose the house. We'd be able to pay the house off. And if that's what the person who's left wants to do, they would be able to pay the house off and pay some things off and be able to make some decisions on what they want to do. We have that amount of life insurance. So you've got to look at what you need. There are different life insurance companies out there that you can talk to. Again, this is something you might want to talk to somebody about. A lot of people who have home and they have health, auto, and life. So you can talk to one person and talk about all of these different insurances. That's what Chapter 12 is looking at, life insurance. All of these things, all of these insurances are items that you want to think about in your financial planning, especially as you get older. And it is cheaper to get your life insurance when you're young. I know we got life insurance policies on our 3 boys when they were babies. And then when they were 18, we actually got whole life insurance policies for them when they were born. And when we were 18, we gave them to the boys. So when our boys turned 18, we actually gave them those policies, and they could either choose to add more money to them, and they had a really low premium because they'd had them for so long. They didn't have to prove that they didn't have cancer or any other problems, or they could sell them back to the company and get some cash back value from that life insurance policy. So just some different things to think about. So that's covered here under the life insurance. So got your motor and vehicle insurance, your health, disability, and long-term care insurance, and your life insurance. And apologize, just have our house's backyards being sprayed for bugs. And so that's why you hear my 3 dogs having fun right now. So look over these chapters. There is so much information here that, and it's pretty easy to read, guys. So make sure you look through these chapters. Watch these videos. They're fairly short videos over some of the concepts. They don't cover all the concepts in the videos, but there's information in here. Then you have the discussion boards over 10, 11, and 12. Let's see, the discussion board for Chapter 10 is they want to know if the Leylands should consider purchasing an umbrella policy for their property. So you're going to have to find out what is an umbrella umbrella policy, and why or why not. What is an umbrella policy? You might want to answer that in the discussion board. And why or why not? Just don't say yes or no. Why are you making that decision? If you just say yes or no, you're going to get points deducted. That's not going to cut it. I want a little more information. And especially in the replies, some of you are being really stingy in some of your replies, so put a little more thought into them. Now on Chapter 11 discussion board, I want you to look at the Affordable Care Act. So you might have to do a little bit of digging on the internet and talk about what factors have influenced the healthcare and cost and medical services in our society. Now, again, this is not a political science class, so but I want you to look at the healthcare, and the medical services in our society, and why are costs going up? What's causing them to go up? And what is that Affordable Care Act? So do a little bit of research and then respond here. And then on Chapter 12, I want you to talk about whole life and term policies. And I will go in and fix this misspelled word here. It's whole life and term policies. And I just kind of talked about that. Kind of gave you the answer. But I want you to talk about that. And which one, and I'm going to add this to this post too, but which one do you think would work better for you? Do you think you would be better off with a whole life policy or a term policy? Let me know. And I'm going to change that and add that to this discussion board. So do those discussion boards, and then make sure you do the module quiz before the due date. And then also make sure that you are keeping track of your expenses. All right? So you're going to need to be turning in and answering those questions on your personal expenses. So your personal spending diary. So you got an email on that last week. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Again, that your personal diary assignment, spending diary assignment, that information is right up here. So make sure you're tracking your spending. Lots of heavy stuff this week. And it's stuff, I knew about it because of the job that I had when I turned 18. I actually worked for a health insurance company and life insurance. So I was exposed to it at a very young age, but a lot of people aren't. They don't think about it. So yeah, read and learn about these different types of policies because they are very, very important when you're thinking about your financial planning and your personal finances. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm here for you, and have a great week.